Alrighty. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of season 6 of GameSense. My name's Francis O'Rourke from the Robo Sports Network, and joining me, we've got some great hosts and guests here. First up, we've got Adrienne Emerson. She's from team number 148.
Hi, guys.
We've got Dave. He's from Dave McLaughlin. He's from team 1983. You've seen him here a couple weeks ago before build season. Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good. Steve, you're back this week. You're from team number 190.
Yeah, and I spent this past weekend watching an event as a head ref, so.
Yikes. Well, we thank you for your service. And last but not least is our guest this week. Our guest, his name is Ben Ludit. He is the Chief of Tactics on team number 190. Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I'm Ben Ludit from Team 190. This is my first year on 190. I spent this last weekend watching 18 streams at once for play-by-play.
Oh, wow. Ben, play-by-play. Tell me more about that. But no, for real, though. Play-by-play is a show that First is doing every week of the build season. If you are familiar with the NFL and you know NFL Red Zone, or if you've watched First Champ live at either of the championship events for the last 3 years, you know what play-by-play is all about. It's live whip-around coverage showing all of the best matches from across FRC. It's going to be every single Saturday between now and Detroit from noon to 8 on Saturday, and during the championship, all 3 days. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got to check it out this week. This week we've got Clinton Bollinger. He's from team 2337. Who else is going to be on? I think Emerson, you're going to be there as well from 148. And Nick
Canada.
Lawrence is back from Indiana. We rescheduled Emerson and Nick's flights, so they won't be on any 787 Maxes. Not that they could anyway, apparently. So they'll be here. So just a couple things before we get rolling here. First off, just want to remind everybody that we don't take ourselves too seriously, and you shouldn't either. Have fun. And if you don't like what we have to say, go out there and prove us wrong. It's more fun that way. Next up, I want to say, if you have a question for us during the show, in the chat, just type !, then Q, followed by your question. We'll grab it out of the chat, and if we like what you're asking, we'll answer it on the air toward the end of the show. All right, well, week 2 has come and gone. Week 3 is coming upon us right now. The game is starting to sort of solidify. We're getting those initial bumps and bruises from the early weeks of a game out of the way for the most part. Let's talk about first what we think makes a great alliance in this year's game. You know, sometimes you've got to do different things. You have different sets of teammates to make a good alliance. Ben, what are your initial thoughts on how that's going to work out?
Sure. So from some of the matches that I got to watch this last weekend, I saw a lot of people scoring at least 3 ranking points in many of their matches. Seemed to be one of the difference makers was always getting either the HAB ranking point or getting the extra rocket ranking point. Almost everyone who was in a top seed was scoring at least, had a ranking average of at least 2 RP over all their matches. So those extra ranking points were definitely making a difference.
Yeah, that's true. So what are your thoughts on, like, if you had to pick that alliance, right? Like you're the number 1 seed, or you're some sort of seed. What makes up a good alliance? Do you want just 3 robots that can put up hatches, or which more important? Like, you know, I know that Emerson and Dave, you guys competed this weekend. What were your alliances like?
No, unison.
Oh,
the same
yeah.
time.
We practiced before.
I mean, for us, we had 2, ourselves in 3310, 2 relatively good scorers with both hatch panels and cargo. And we used our 3rd robot mainly as a defensive robot. We tried to use them as a scoring robot in the beginning of our matches, but it gets really crowded over there when you have 3 robots, especially if the alliance you're against sends a defender, and then you've got 4 robots huddling all on that side of the field. And so I think for right now, for the foreseeable future, 2 fast scorers and a defender seems to be the makeup of most winning alliances.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. That's kind of the same style that we played this weekend. We played with 2046, excellent robot. They could score like the bejeezers out there. But the field was too shallow for us to have much options other than like a defensive robot for our third robot. So we played the same kind of a style. We just tried to kind of split the field, have us on one side of the cargo ship playing one rocket and 2046 playing the other side and the other rocket. And then our defender either trying to set picks for us so we could get back to where we needed to be or into a scoring position, or having them on the other side of the field. One thing I did notice is we tried to have some of our partners play defense in quals, and they would get a lot of penalties because it's easy to get baited into a position where you can get pushed pretty easy peasy into the loading station. So,
Steve, what's so funny?
As the person calling a lot of those fouls at a different event, yeah, I don't think we're at the point where I have too much confidence in a lot of teams playing defense in qualifications. And actually I was at the New England Bridgewater Raritan event this past weekend, and the winning alliance, the number one alliance, their third partner was just an offensive robot. They got somebody who could do 3 or more cargo during the match, and they could try to get up to level 2, and they mostly use them in that capacity. Just sort of, they would get some of the cargo ship while the other 2 were working on rockets and cargo ship. So there's still hope that we see a more offensive game, but I watched the entire competition and I saw 20 or 30 seconds of good defense.
Not bad. All right.
Yeah, I
No.
think some of the best defense I've seen so far is actually, I don't know, it's from my alliance back 2 weeks ago, I think, last week, week 1. We were playing against 2910 and 2930, 2 excellent scoring robots, but they can only score level 1. And we would just watch which side of the cargo ship they weren't null hatching and park our third robot in front of the cargo ship. And the first match, they didn't understand. They were trying to drive all over the place, and they did mix it up and stop people from scoring, but they scored a bunch of penalties for the other alliance. So in the second match, we just had them park and it shut them down. I mean, it blocked off two hatch placements and 2 cargo. So
Adrian knows quite well, it's going to be similar to last year. If you can get your defender to stop moving when they should stop moving, you're going to win.
Actually, that brings up a good point, actually, that it seems like there's a lot of really easy sort of tells in this game, right? There's a lot of like, oh, you're putting a lot of points on that rocket, I'm going to go hang out by that rocket. Or like you were saying, Dave, if you have like empty null hatch panels on one side of your cargo ship, then you know that, oh, well, they're probably going to want to do something over there. This is a big old gap right where that's supposed to be, right? Let me park my robot over there and stop them, right? And so, Steve, when you saw that alliance of 3 offensive robots, which it seems like is a little bit rare when it comes to elimination alliances, did it seem like they were too crowded in that neck of the woods? Was there too many robots moving around, especially with a defensive robot in there?
No, not really. I think one of the smart things that they were doing was the first game objective for them was put a couple of hatch panels on a rocket so that then whenever you pick up a cargo, like you don't have to just go to whichever side of the cargo ship available to score. You have the option to turn around and go to the rocket. And I think it's mostly that teams are kind of figuring out how many hatch panels is worth it to put up first before you start going to cargo. But some teams have done the work early and have already started doing like late season strategy, because we've seen a lot of events where like you only score in the cargo ship and that's enough to win. So that's all you try.
Yeah, I think that once you're in the elims and you're really trying to rack up as many points as possible, ensuring that you have places to score, no matter where your defender is one of the most important parts that that you can kind of coordinate with your whole alliance. Because like Dave was saying, if you can shut down an entire side of a cargo ship and that's your whole game, then you're kind of setting yourself up to lose.
What was that? Is there a train close to your house, Francis, or something? I don't know what that was.
I'd much rather have a robot that can sit in the other alliance's way. We were looking at some matches today with robots who are going to be at our event, trying to find who can play that good positional defense. And just sitting in front of the cargo ship, we found a team that held a really top scoring robot to 4 balls in a whole match. And we're hoping that we can find one of those next week.
That's the right answer, but Ben, because like, sure, maybe you get a couple more, but from what we've seen, like the difference in winning and losing alliances is right now, according to the Blue Alliance, like 17 points. So far, for the most part, you've got a pretty wide margin of victory. So you just want to keep the other alliance down.
Yeah,
you can score.
Yeah, it's all about the math. If 3 cargo is 9 points, but you can spend 2 minutes on the other side of the field causing complete chaos over there, I'm pretty sure one robot that is decently practiced can stop an alliance from 9 points in 2 minutes. And so, I mean, if you think they can do that, then it's a no-brainer.
But can Oh, whoops. So I mean, that's part of the question from Francis was if you could find a good defender who knows when to stop. That's kind of the difference. Like at a certain point, you're like a middle seed. You're 4, 5, 6, whatever. You might just want somebody they've been scoring all weekend. At the very least, you know that they are about as good as they showed at that. Where you pick somebody that you've never seen play defense, you might just knock yourself out of the tournament by getting stuck over there, not finishing whatever you're trying to finish.
Yeah, and Steve, you were talking about penalties earlier, and I think that has a lot to do with it too, because the fouls are so so many points compared to game objects that one penalty can really set back your alliance and kind of throw you off pace for the rest of the match. And so you have a lot of things that weigh into when you send a robot over to the other side of the field. But you, with good coaching and with good practice, if you can get a defender over there that can ensure they're not going to get any penalties, I think that they can take so many points away from the other alliance that it's a really, really big advantage to the alliance that has a defender that can do that, that it's going to be really hard for them to lose.
I think it's like, if you can play smart, there's just so many good places to play defense. There's chokes
Yeah.
all over the field.
All over.
And it's like, if you miss them going one way, they have to come back through the same choke. So it's like, the opportunities to play defense and slow someone down are ample.
Yeah. And it's so easy when you're trying, if you're an offensive robot trying to score either on the opposite side of the rocket ship or on those far cargo bays, and you've already have a defender over there, it's so easy for your defender to force the offensive robots into a penalty by crossing those lines. Because if you're in their way at all and they get flustered, they just cross it, and that's an automatic foul real quick. And we saw that a lot this weekend.
And the big foul, the big tech foul that we called most often was crossing the opponent's cargo line in Sandstorm. Mm-hmm. And I think that's sort of another thing that's going to be important to pay attention to, is now that we've seen enough alliances that just kind of fill the cargo ship and do a little extra on the rockets and then climb. The difference is definitely going to have to come from Sandstorm. If you have somebody who can do more than one hatch panel on the cargo ship, like that's a lot of cycles that you don't have to do later. It's got to start being the difference, because otherwise this game turns into the difference is defense, and I hate it.
I don't disagree with you.
All right. Oh, there we go. Excellent. Yes, thank you guys for talking about that. That was good.
Did we fill enough for you? Is that good?
No, you didn't. Not just fill. You guys had a great conversation. I was listening to every single word.
Okay. Ooh.
For sure. All right. That's great to know. Let's move on to probably the next hot topic from this past weekend, right? We saw the first time this season 3 robots go up at the same time. We saw Team 1678 lift both of their alliance partners in the quarterfinals up onto the level 3 of the HAB, scoring 36 points. Tons of points, right? So, is it new hotness or old and busted? We didn't see them do it that often. We only saw them do it, I believe, once. I didn't actually get to watch all their matches, but
yeah, I think, Francis, that's the stat that tells it all. 1678 is a smart team. All right. And they know how to win matches. And if they're not doing it every match, I think that tells you all you need to know.
Harsh.
Yikes. That's savage. That's pretty savage.
No, I mean, we saw. I got to watch like 2 matches from Southern Cross because I don't know time zones, and I mean, Bronco Redbacks out there lifted up their partner. I didn't count all of the points to see if that was the difference, but that seemed like a strategy that has some legs to it.
Yeah, I think that has a lot more legs than the triple climb. And Barker looked great this weekend. So
shocking.
Yeah. So what's wrong with the triple climb? Right? It's free points, right? It's free real estate. Why would you not do it?
Well, even looking at the score breakdowns from some of Citrus's elimination matches, some of their highest scores came in matches where they didn't do the triple climb. The time that it takes to do that really cuts away some of your scoring.
I mean, we watched them in matches where they and 1323 were each working on a rocket, and they'd start putting up hatch panels, and they wouldn't even fill those bays with cargo. That one match where they did the triple climb in quarterfinals, they had put like 2 cargo when they had spaces for at least like 3 more in each rocket. So, I mean, it's a lot of time to have 3 robots dedicated to something. It's almost like we learned that in 2007.
Well, and 1370 or oh my gosh, 1323. 1323 is fast. I think I saw that they did 15 game objects in a match. Like, why are you going to take those guys? Yeah. Why are you going to take those guys out to try and line up, with 3 robots trying to coordinate at the same time, especially if they can just rip up the field if they're out there by themselves.
I loved watching their sandstorm. They're just like sitting there. They look like they're facing forward, and then whoop.
I love their swerve drive. It's so fun to watch.
This kind of reminds me of a problem that to equate to football, right? The Cleveland Browns had a couple years ago, and they've had lots of problems, we'll say, right? But one of the problems they had was they haven't had a good quarterback for a while, and for a period of time, they had their main quarterback got injured, backup quarterback bad, third string quarterback also got injured, hired a new quarterback, he got injured. They put in their emergency quarterback, who was their number 1 wide receiver, right? So you take your number 1 wide receiver, and now he's throwing the ball to a bunch of bad players, right? And we're circling back, coming back around. Is
this going to be a recurring segment? Francis talks about football.
Francis talks about football.
I'm so confused.
It needs to be a recurring segment. But.
Yeah. This is football facts with Francis Madden here. All right. First football facts. Anyway, long story short, they took their best player and put him in a role that he was not good at to make it work. And it's the same thing that's happening here, right? You've got probably one of the best object scorers they have on the alliance, if not the second best. They'd be the best on a number of alliances and better than many winning number 1 seeds, right? You take them and take them out of the match for 15 to 20 to 30 seconds so that they can have 2 people climb on top of them. So you're just like exactly what you said, right? You got to pick one or the other. So that brings up the next word. I'll first ask this question. Does anybody know anybody else that can lift 2 other robots? Yeah.
33.
50-26.
Oh.
Okay.
Did it in one match.
Okay.
Got all 3.
Oh yeah, that's right. But one of them was just hanging too low.
Yeah.
So, they had a couple matches like that. Where
are there any teams that can do that you wouldn't want to also be scoring game objects at the same time?
What do you mean at the same? Look, whatever. Like, so yeah, I mean, like 33 as the team that's picking up the other 2, they're also very good at scoring game objects. It's just kind of a question of, can you get like that credit? I suppose, I'm guessing, based on like previous games, teams are hoping that they come to like, oh man, we found like the perfect alliance, like the 2012 Canada alliance that was at championships. Like, when they were on, they could do the triple climb that year with like 8 seconds left in the match. if you somehow find that, then if that's the difference at the highest levels, then it's worth it to have it. But we see right now that it is 100% not worth it to do. So how much practice are you going to get? Are you going to get at it? It's weird.
Yeah, didn't 33 play week 1?
Yep.
And they didn't triple climb with anyone? They're a really smart team, and I'll say it again. I think that tells you all what you need to know.
She's really just trying to justify them not having a triple climb. That's the secret strat.
Yeah,
you guys didn't hear pre-show at all. Pre-show is secret. You didn't hear any of that. So
That's a good theory. That's a good theory.
I think one of the things that makes it not worth is if that triple climb alliance has someone playing defense and I'm playing against them and I can identify that that robot is playing defense, I am stopping that robot from getting back to do the triple climb. Because it looks like Citrus can't climb with just 2. So
yeah,
the
I
longer,
got the same impression.
so it's like the longer I hold him, it's just I'm wasting not only one robot's time, but 2 robots' time, right? So
Yep.
it's
yeah, that's
100%
exactly right.
agreed.
It's super risky, and I think we've kind of come to the conclusion that the reward is not necessarily as huge as it's going to be. Now, I think a lot of people have thought that this is going to be a strategy that's going to come into play at the high level game, right? Because some people still think, I still am not on this boat, that some people think that we're going to nearly fill up the field with game objects at some point during the year. I think it's going to be a little crazy, maybe IRI. But do you see that this possibly becoming a thing as the weeks go on, as we start to get more teams being able to score more quickly and filling up all of their pretty easy to reach locations?
I think like in a 300 points and could have done more scenario, maybe. But if people are just playing the game the way it's intended to be played, probably not.
Yeah, I have a bet with Francis on this, but I think that it might be interesting to see if teams get to the point where they're not preloading null hatch panels just to have more places. They've got to kind of have a curve of it, because as we said before, you want to have all the places to score. So spending that time to places to score cargo. So spending that time to put the hatch panels on is slowing you down, but you've got to find the right amount, because if you find yourself just done with scoring game pieces, then you kind of look dumb in that scenario too.
If you're scoring all the game pieces on the field, you're probably winning. So
no, I mean, if you're short. So we asked this like about 2910, they look amazing. Is there a point at which they have to start putting hatch panels on the cargo ship during teleop or during the gameplay for them to start moving beyond where they are?
Yeah, I know. I get you.
Yeah. I think that point is going to get crossed for some alliances. It's not going to happen until we see a lot of high-level teams playing. And also, Emerson, exactly the point, right? Even if it's like, wow, we're out of places to put balls. We've filled all the places we can put balls reasonably. You're probably going to win anyway. At that point, why not put the null hatch panels on and risk not being able to place a ball when you can instead just win?
Yeah.
It's the philosophy of win versus win more.
Yeah. As one of my rookies said that at the beginning of the season, just win every match. There's literally no downside.
Promote that kid.
Wow. Can we get him or her on GameSense?
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be happy to.
But it's true though,
It is, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've pretty much decided this. So if you've got a triple climb and you're watching us, go out there and prove us wrong. All right. Next up, let's talk a little bit about margin of victory. Steve, you wanted to talk about this topic, I think. Why don't you lead us off and give us your take?
All right. So I spent like 2 seconds looking at the Blue Alliance because I thought, man, it's weird, right? The margin of victory that I've been seeing at these competitions. Because last week, or this past weekend, what I saw was really comfortable wins for the most part. There were a couple of close matches, but fewer than I thought that I was expecting in playoffs. And so I looked back to 2016, another game with sort of a similar points breakdown. Of course, each game is blah, blah, blah. But in 2016, the margin of victory went down a lot. in playoffs, and this year it's exactly flat. So where exactly is that coming from? Like, teams are playing defense, right? Are they just playing the same amount of defense in quals as playoffs? Does it have something to do with the Rocket RP not being a thing? I'm flummoxed.
Yeah, there's no bonus points, right?
Nope.
That's right. There's no bonus points,
Yeah.
but there
bonus
wasn't
points.
last year either. So, which was obviously a different scoring system, but I think it has more to do with the fact that, like, when you get up there, you end up with there's only so many places you can put objects, right? And in eliminations, your ability to score objects does not suddenly go up by a huge number, right? Most teams, like we've just discussed, are putting as many objects as they can onto their cargo ship and onto their rocket as they can, right? And so when you get the best teams together, your margin of victory is still approximately the same. It's also not a zero-sum game, right? Like, you can score a bunch, they can score a bunch. You really can't stop each other super effectively. So that's my take, at least. Ben,
I guess that's everyone's take. I guess that everyone's take.
Ben, what's your take?
Well, I've been seeing as a part of only allowing one robot to play defense at a time, teams are kind of forced to continue scoring for as long as they can in elims matches, which forces them to not decide to just play all-out defense on a alliance who can theoretically score more than they can. So you do have continued scoring all through the match.
Yeah, and I think that when we were competing this weekend, we saw defense in most of our qual matches, and I'm not saying that that's completely different from previous years, but I think it was more consistent than previous years. And so by the time we got to the elims, it's like playing the same old game over and over and over again. Whereas normally you're kind of facing, like, elims alliances are throwing like different strategies. Almost this year, it's kind of, it feels like rinse, wash, repeat. You know, like 2 robots scoring, 1 robot defending. If you're the one scoring, you have to figure out how to deal with the defender, and then you just do that over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Oh, welcome to districts.
Oh, hey, I'm here now.
Now you have 12 qualifications to do the same thing over and over and over again.
And just less time between them all.
Oh, it's great.
It's been a long time since I've been at a regional, so, like, the thought of having an hour between matches at championships for the last, like, few years has just been like, what do you even do? Like, the robot's not broken anymore. Everything that broke already. I don't know what's gonna play, I guess.
I think at one point this weekend I said I'd rather have 10 matches and more time between them than 12. Like, please stop.
Yes, an embarrassment of riches. Yes. Anybody else? Any other thoughts on, like, the margin of victory? And I guess the bigger thing, as we look forward out of the early weeks of the season, as the game starts to mature, are we going to see alliances start either tightening the gap to be super duper close or pulling way far away? I mean, if I had to guess, I can think of perhaps one regional where we may see some elimination matches with lots of points compared to everyone else. Specifically, the one where 971 and 254 are going to play. But
I think at least in the next couple of weeks, we're probably going to see people pulling farther ahead. A lot of people are competing for the second time. They've got more practice under their belts. And I think that for the most part, if you designed a mechanism that has a higher ceiling, then you're just going to hone it in and practice a whole lot and come out swinging in the next few events. And if you don't have a mechanism that can get up to that point, then you're kind of stuck right now. So
I think we're actually going to see the opposite. So, like, the last couple of weeks, we've noted that the 1 seed is winning events at a higher rate than usual, which was already insane, but was like 88% the first week or whatever the heck.
Mhm.
And I think the change is going to be more teams at an event able to do the HAB 3 climb means that just you being able to do it isn't going to guarantee you the 1 spot as it did the first couple of weeks. So we only saw like a couple instances of a bunch of declines at events. I think it's going to start happening more and more just because now you're going to see the schedule start to affect some of these teams. I mean, Rocket RPs becoming more common will shift it a little bit, but up till now, like, an event had 2 or 3 good level 3 hab climbers, so the one that was slightly better, they're the 1 seed, and there's no way to stop them.
Well, it's kind of pivoting on that. Are we going to see more Rocket RPs? Right. I know that you had a bet with Dave, and it was fulfilled. You won by the skinnest of teeth.
Get out of here, dude. Why do you got to bring that up?
I'm just saying.
I won by like
man,
I
all
won
right?
by
That's all I'm
like
saying.
several events. It was a big win for me.
Yeah. So far we've only had 77 rocket RPs that weren't, well, excuse me, 77 full rockets, which should give you the rocket RP according to the Blue Alliance, right? Over about 4,000 matches. That's a lot of opportunities and not a lot of rockets. And I know it's early. We've been saying it. Do you really think it's going to get that much more? It's really hard to do it, and it's not impossibly easy to stop.
I mean, 2046 did it 3 times at their first event. So, and I think they're just going to get better. So I think they're probably going to get more than that at their next event.
Dave, put earmuffs on for a second. That was the PNW, though. Put on some earmuffs, though. That was the PNW, though, right?
What's with the shake tonight, Francis?
I'm just saying, right?
My goodness.
I spent a weekend at a Vex event, and I am so looking forward to going to a first event. But
now,
no.
I was going to say, hey, Francis, those numbers, too, we were taking a look at Rocket RPs, and a lot of those are coming from fouls, too. Like, it's even less, happening less than kind of the data says it is, too. And so, but I also think that we're going to see more of it go up for the same reason that I said before. I think as people that have the ability to fill a rocket are just going to be practicing more, and they're going to be tuning more. And I think they're just going to get better and better, and we're going to see it more often. And I think that's very similar to all the other seasons, especially in 2016, which is kind of a comparable game. At the beginning of the season, you rarely saw the tower. What was it called? The castle. I don't remember.
Capture.
But whatever.
Breach.
Yeah, capture the thing. But then as you got like forward into or more into the season, they even increased the amount of balls it took for championship because people were getting so good at it. So I expect the season to be the same.
Yeah, I'm struck when I see like practice matches or some qualification matches where some teams are unimpeded to getting the rocket completed, like 97 being able to almost solo a rocket, 973 soloing a rocket in the practice matches, and like Dave's saying, or any number of other teams being able to get a full rocket. I think it's totally within the mechanical capabilities of a lot of these robots, but I'm just afraid that as it goes on, people are going to notice it and start hitting them more. Maybe that's just my hit people mentality, I guess. I don't know, but
no, I'll double down on my incentives talk because if more teams are doing the Hab 3 climb, which basically gets you that ranking point, the teams that up till now just haven't finished the rocket, not just haven't finished, but haven't finished the rocket because they need to go get that Hab 3 climb, you're going to have to start pushing yourself because that'll now be the difference instead of you should just get that ranking point because you're probably not going to finish the rocket and get that ranking point compared to the Hab 3. And I mean, yeah, okay. Karthik makes a good point in chat. It's hard for that percentage to go down as far as rockets finished. What, negative rockets?
Truth. I think in general too, with like RPs over FRC seasons past, people in the beginning weeks are like just trying to get their stuff together. Like they're trying to get the robot working. They're trying to figure out what they're good at. They're just trying to get to the field, play their matches. They're not really focused on like seeding per se. And once they get all that stuff figured out, they're like, okay, now what do we got to do to like get better? Oh, we have to get RPs. Okay, how do we get RPs? We got to do this. And I think that you kind of see that every year. You can even see it in an event. The first couple matches, people are just desperate, running onto the field trying to, get the robot out there to do something. And by the end of it, they're more calm, collected. They got a plan. So.
All right. You've convinced me. You changed my mind. I hope to see that. I hope to see them go up. I think you guys convinced me. It's definitely more likely going to happen. I don't know, Ben. What's your last word on this topic?
I think as people get more experience, as people go to their second events, as teams get more and more matches, they're just going to keep on improving. And there's very little chance that number is going to go down, especially with if you have two good scorers on Alliance, one of them can't be defended at a time. So being flexible as well, being able to shift your plan to account for defense.
All right. I think that settles that topic. Let's go on to our next topic of discussion here. So far, it looks like most folks are preloading the robot with hatch panels, which makes sense to a certain extent. They stick. They don't have to shoot them. You don't have to do anything with them. They just kind of go on, and you can even like block those two cargo bays in the front of the cargo ship. When or if is there ever a point where it makes sense to preload your robot with cargo?
No. Next question.
All right. You put it in the document, Steve.
No. Sorry, I had meant by that question starting the cargo ship with cargo preloaded, but it does kind of follow from that. Like, all right, okay, so is there a point at which it makes sense to not put null hatch panels on?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah. I think
Next question.
Yeah. All right, and we're done.
We all
Moving on.
Yes or no questions from here on out on GameSense. We're gonna have a 5-minute show next week.
Championship turnarounds, everybody. That's what we're going for here. What were you going to say for real, though, Dave?
Yeah, I don't know. Just on to the next one, please.
No. All right, but I think it makes sense. We've kind of touched on it earlier in the show.
I remember.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
I remember. So I think that
you can interrupt me.
I think that if you get two teams like 29-10 together, and they're like wicked good at doing level 1, I could see not having the hatch panels, especially if they're trying to keep up with an alliance that can do high level scoring while they can't. Maybe having some extra room for some points that the other alliance doesn't have. Potentially, I could see that. But for most teams, just having the opportunity to score points with the balls out of the gate, which are worth more than the hatches, is the way that it's going to be for a long time, I think.
Yeah, and you could already see, like, when you had an alliance where you only had one robot that was really good at hatch panels, you needed all of those hatch panels on the cargo ship so that all the other robots on the alliance had something to do, so they could have a place to immediately go with cargo. But as you start getting alliances where you've got multiple robots that are good at hatch panels, and you're going to need lots of places to score on the field. If you have 3 offensive robots on your alliance, I can see using, or not using the null hatches as a great way to increase your opportunities for scoring and just giving yourself more opportunities in different places on the field.
One of the things that I'm eager to see kind of is when the sandstorm ends and the cargo ship empties out, I think that if you can get a couple of hatch panels on the cargo ship, the rocket in teleop mode, just ending near the rocket ship and then having balls sort of pop out toward you is a good way to also like speed up your cycle and give you the ability to do more points, like you've been talking about, right? Like if you cover up, if you leave one of them exposed, so you end up with a ball intentionally ejecting itself from the cargo ship, get your 2 hatch panels, pick up that ball, score it, go get another hatch panel, and you get yourself 5 more points.
Yeah, I saw some cycle. Yeah, I saw some people using the cargo in the cargo ship during Sandstorm as a strategic move too, where if you're trying to fill up a rocket by yourself in the qualifications, you decide which rocket you're going to fill. You load that side with cargo, and it falls out at the beginning of the match. And then all of a sudden, you've got 3 balls theoretically that are right next to your rocket, and you can just put a couple hatch panels on and just whip right around and have 2 balls right in your face. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know if they did it on purpose or not, but maybe I just gave them an idea, or maybe they were just smarter than me because they thought of it before I did. Yeah.
Let's assume that it was on purpose, and we'll be happy that way, I guess.
Yeah.
No, I'm hoping to see some better sandstorms out of like third partner robots, because thus far as far as I know, I haven't seen any teams pick up a cargo from the depot in Sandstorm, and eventually that's got to be like where you are. I don't see a perfect playoff alliance with every single cargo bay preloaded with cargo, just because you can't get more than the 2 extra hatch panels to start during the Sandstorm from the loading stations. So if your third partner goes and like closes the front with the hatch panel and then goes and gets a cargo and puts it in the place where you already have a null panel, like that's kind of the platonic ideal of a third partner Sandstorm. Like what am I even talking about? Most third partner Sandstorm is like cross the line. But come on, we've got to aim higher.
That's what I was going to ask, is like, do you think that like most third robots at events are going to be able to do 2 objects?
No,
like...
I do not. No, Dave, come on. I'm not making that bet. I'm just saying, like, at a certain point, somebody, like, we've got to eventually find enough things to do during Sandstorm, because you can't just drive across the line. It's not enough.
Yeah. Well, and in general, Steve, like, I think that Sandstorm is probably the most like untapped part of this game right now. I think people are talking in the chat too about like 11-14, not using null patches when you have a 2 hatch panel cargo ship Sandstorm is a really big deal. And if you have 2 robots on an alliance that can do that, then yeah, you'd start all cargo all day long. And 11-14 is like one of my favorite robots so far this season. They were incredible. I watched all of their videos. They're so good.
So still talking about like how to optimize Sandstorm, did you guys see the secret sauce of like the triple level 2 start, where you like stack robots? What do you guys think about that, where you do the Tetris to
what I think about it is it's illegal, so
it's got to be partially legal, right?
No,
like,
it's not legal. Like, your starting perimeter cannot be defined. Your starting configuration cannot be defined in that way, because your frame perimeter has to be at that point parallel to the ground. Sorry.
Well, but you can still Tetris, like, if you have tiny robots, right?
Oh yeah,
so, like,
yeah.
Do you think that's value added, or do you think like it's just room for poor coordination?
I think it depends on your Sandstorm abilities, but like we actually had a big internal debate about level 1 versus level 2 start, and ultimately I think whatever makes you a better robot in Sandstorm is what you should do for your team. And if that's make sure you get an extra 3 points by starting on level 2, then that's great. And if that means you start on level 1 because you can guarantee a hatch panel every single time, then I think you should do that.
Yeah.
Three more
good.
points at the end of Sandstorm. More points.
Adrian, you've been like the best at like just spouting out wisdom. It's like, oh yeah, Dave, that's it, right?
Yeah, a lot of mic drops. A lot of mic drops tonight.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, from what I saw this past weekend, almost all the robots that started on level 2 waited for like 5 seconds of Sandstorm before they even drove off.
Yeah.
Partially, I imagine, because there was somebody in front of them, or they just didn't want to disrupt wherever their partner was trying to drive to. But Sandstorm, I mean, the match is short, so I don't like the idea of waiting somewhere.
Right. I mean, if someone just sat in the middle of the field for 5 seconds and sort of did nothing, as a scout, you'd be like, oh, that is not good. That's not a good thing to look at, right? Like, this robot just sat around and just loafed for 5 seconds. What's wrong, right? Just that because in Sandstorm or Auto or whatever, right, we can sort of let it pass by. But this year, if you can drive, might as well, right? It's not having ever done strategy for an alliance this year. It seems like a lot of level 2 starts are robots that are basically just going down to get some points, right? There are some robots that are high level and they're using it just for free points, basically. But it seems like a lot of robots get sort of banished to L2 just so that they can get that extra 3 points with 2 seconds left in Sandstorm. What's your take on this, Ben?
I think if we could find a third robot who could start on level 2 and go over and place a hatch panel on the front of the cargo ship, that would be a pretty good Sandstorm. Get the 3 points for level 2, get the crossing points, and put that hatch panel on. Like, I'd love to find a robot who could do that.
Fair enough. Fair point.
Yeah, because like the front of the cargo ship, whoever's doing that is probably not doing is probably not getting another thing from the loading station. So there isn't a whole lot of there's not much more they can do during Sandstorm. So yeah, in that case, I think it makes sense.
And whether they score that hatch panel at 14.5 seconds or 5 seconds doesn't matter.
Or 25 seconds into the match, because
as long as they keep the ball in.
Oh god, I watched so many robots this weekend pull off their old hatch panels, driving by, and they'd already put a cargo ball in. And then they'd come up at the end and they said, "I think somebody descored a hatch panel on our cargo ship." Yeah, that was your partner. Sorry.
That actually happened to us in our first qualification match with 3310. We were one game object. We were one cargo away from completing the rocket, and the hatch panel on level 3 fell down, and the ball dropped out, and it also hit the hatch panel on level 2, knocked that out, and knocked the ball out. It was devastating.
Yikes.
I think 987 takes the prize for the best hatch panel knockoff, though. Knocking their own level 2 hatch off and then having it bounce off the ground and land on the level 1 of the rocket.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Baller.
I need to find the video.
Yeah.
That's 4D chess right there for you guys.
Yeah, secret strats.
Secret strats.
Yeah.
Just watch out, Einstein, everybody. All right, so we're going to go into our second to last segment here. This is going to be Tom's top 5. We've asked it the last few weeks. We've had Tom come on and talk about what his take for the top 5 robots are. Tom even created a great website. Is it tomstop5.com, right? I believe it is tomstop5.com. He's got the source code for it even. So check that out. But Tom's not here this week. He's getting ready for his competition in San Francisco. So Tom's top 5 with Dave. Dave, why don't you give us what Tom's top 5 is?
So Tom was super generous this week, and I just want to say thank you, Tom. Shout out to you guys. Number 1 is 1983. He says that they had a rough loss.
All right. Tom's top 5 with anybody but Dave.
Actually, yeah, it looks like I have a different version of his top 5.
He DM'd me. I don't know what you guys got.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
So,
let me
number 1
paste
this week.
the new version for you.
I think these are overall. So number 1 overall for Tom's top 5 is. You want to go number 1 or number 5? Which way you want to go?
5 to 1.
5 to 1. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm glad I asked. So number 5 is 973, and Tom says still really impressed by their showing week 1. Simple robot that accomplishes what it was designed to do really well. Any thoughts?
Concur.
Yes.
Dope.
Yes.
So number 4, 1114, awesome climb, fast scoring. It's 1114.
Definitely agree on that second point. I would agree. No. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to watch it. Adrian, you saw all their matches though, right?
Yeah, they're really good. I actually told Tom I would have put him higher, but he didn't agree with me. So there you go.
Ouch. Controversy. What's up next, Adrian?
Yeah.
So number 3, we got 118. Still concerned about their Omni drive for playoffs. That's a hot take right there.
Yeah.
But they are just so fast when not defended.
Yeah, I mean,
I would
Truth.
An Omni drive is always a liability, but if you've got good drivers, I mean, 33 proved it to us in 2014, a game which was basically just hit the guy with the ball, that if you can outdrive your opponents, it doesn't matter if you've got 4 on-new wheels or 6 traction wheels.
I mean, watch how they got eliminated on their division that year and come back with the same thing. But I'm less concerned this year with Omni drives just because I don't see defense getting much better, and 118 is just too fast driving around. So I'm not sure it'll ever really slow them down that much.
If you can make them the robot on your alliance who's undefended, they're going to put up massive numbers.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and number 2, we've got 1678. They pulled off the triple. They probably should be number 1.
Maybe a triple.
Oh, baby, a triple. Mom, get the camera. They probably should be number 1, but they have some driving issues at times.
We talked a lot about them earlier in the day, so let's move on to what the number 1 team, according to Tom, is.
The number 1, 1323. This thing is just ridiculous. The ability to swerve around and score at will is insane. They are number 1 now, and I don't see them slumping lower than number 5 on the year.
Wow, that's a pretty strong statement right there. I've heard a lot of. We saw 254 reveal today with their single segment 1 take video they had revealed. Check that out on YouTube if you haven't seen it already. Steve's shaking his head. So I'm eager to see how they perform. We haven't seen anything from 971 yet. They could be a total toss-up, right? They could be either this crazy 75 degree of freedom arm, or perhaps the best robot on the field, I'd say. But 1323
but not
did
both.
good, though.
Come on, it could be both. No, we haven't seen some really high profile teams. 2056 comes to mind. The thing I'm surprised the most about on Tom's list is I'm surprised how high he has 1678, considering how low he thinks of triple climbs in general. So, I mean, they're excellent in teleop, but that's got to be most of it.
But it's the standout, right? Like the triple climb is what makes them unique. I think that just puts them high in general, especially in a game when there's so few things to make you unique.
Harsh.
Yeah, it's true, right? They are a special flower, very unique in this year's game. So, anyway, all right. Thank you, Dave, for giving us Tom's top 5. Hopefully, we'll have Tom on here again when he's not competing and out there trying to win regionals. So, with that, let's go to the questions. So, if you've got a question for us, type !Q in the chat. We're going to answer a few of them before we wrap for the evening. First up, we got a question that came in from the chat. This question, they asks, are the depots going to be targeted in the future week? That's a nice pile of unprotected cargo. So some events haven't seen cargo the depots being used at all or as much, but some events we've seen robots definitely use up the depot. What are you guys' thoughts on picking from the depot as opposed to getting from the human player?
Well,
I mean, the human player can make it rain and all the balls come to you. So why would you go to the depot?
There just aren't enough places to score where I really care that much. It's whatever object is most convenient to me. So
yeah,
maybe at a certain point, like disrupting your opponent's depot becomes a part of the game. But I don't know. I didn't see that many robots with ball collection capabilities from inside their bumpers.
Yeah, that was one of those things that everybody, I think, I'm going to say everybody, but the discourse on the internet said that, oh my gosh, you got to have this thing. You got to have this inside your bumper collector, and nobody's got it, and nobody uses it, and nobody seems to need it. Was it just a big ruse, or is this like the next level strat that we're expecting?
I mean, between the two options, ruse, I guess. I'm not the most comfortable referring to it as a ruse, but
I guess so. I shouldn't think that everybody on Chief Delphi is part of the Illuminati or something, but
it's a facade. I think it's actually a facade, not a ruse.
Might be. Could get there. All right.
I think that could become a place where you park your defense robot, block off one of the depot loading zones.
Oh yeah, if you can keep them out of their loading zone, sure. But I don't know. Dave just thinks you push him right in.
You just push him right in, dude. It's free points. It's free real estate, dude. Every time.
Yeah, I saw a match. Actually, it was the same match you mentioned earlier, Ben, where 97 lowered their hatch panel. They just pushed their opponent right into their hab, right in their loading zone. It's like, sorry, brother, right? All right, we're going to do another question here. This question comes to us from Ginger Power 20 in the chat. And they're saying, when is triple offense a good idea in the playoffs, if ever? At what point in the season do you think that's going to become more prevalent than trying to do, or more effective than having somebody on defense?
When you have deeper events, district championships, things like that. When you have, with the 24th pick, all the way back up, you have people that have the ability to contribute to an alliance more than they could take away from defense.
I think that's a tall order.
I think you're 100% right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're right in that, but I think that triple offense can take a couple different forms. If you manage to find a team on the way back that scores as well as your other two teams, then it can negate like the effects of defense that the opponents are doing. Like whoever's just being occupied is the one not scoring. But even just a team that's stopping the defender from defending your alliances, like if your scores are good but better without being any sort of disruption, then that might be what you need to win. But I would say like earlier weeks, I would think that the triple offense is more valuable. If you can just if your alliance can just get up enough points and that's all you can do, and you don't have a good defender, take the opportunity now. Because I think in later weeks, I see it like defense being more of the difference. Like you're just going to get better defenders, and it's going to matter more.
Do you guys foresee at some point having somebody like do 1 or 2 cargo and then peel off and do defense as being like a more prevalent strategy, or do you think someone's going to just go down the field and stay down there until 20 seconds?
I think it's probably going to be like one hatch panel in Sandstorm and then defense.
Okay. Emerson, I saw you shake your head.
I think that's a perfectly viable strategy. You take a couple game objects right in the beginning when there's a lot of places to score, and then you head downfield. I think you'll see that more often.
Steve and Ben, what are your thoughts? Let's go with Steve first.
I at almost every event, I can't trust teams to multitask. It's not even multitasking. Like I can't trust them to actually make that switch in their mind. Like you see these teams that are, oh, I'll just do one just before I go over there, and then 45 seconds left, they're still trying to like spit this thing into the cargo ship. That's what I foresee more often than somebody like, oh yeah, let me just slam this down and then go play good defense. I think teams are bad at judging how much time they have left to do a task.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it's easier to just send them down there, block the other alliance, try and take some points off the board from them, and leave more room for your own alliance to score.
All right, well that's a good segue into our final question for the evening here. This question comes from somebody in the chat. It's let's see, Conal King 865. All right, they ask, what ways do you see to counter defense to be played effectively, i.e., not just sending somebody down and clogging up the field even more? How do you stop someone that's coming to defend you? Do you try to intersect the team before they cross the midfield? Dave, I think you probably saw some of this weekend, right?
Yeah, I did. So we tried to put our defense robot so that they were playing on the cargo ship, like staying in front of the 3 panels on the side. And then they would just kind of do like an arc and try and cut off the field when someone would try and come across and play defense on us. So it was like they only have to drive like 8 feet. So they're just doing like this little arc back and forth. That's kind of what we did. And then I think that we played some counter defense for 2046 during the match where we got the 4 RP. That was pretty dope. And that was just like trying to trade off who was scoring and set picks for someone who was trying to score. So like we go up and place a hatch panel and then clear out the way for 2046 to come in. So that's kind of what we were doing. It takes more coordination. I think it takes a smarter team to play counter defense than to play defense. So teaching that is kind of tough if you don't have someone who has some good innate skills out of the gate.
We had a really unique strategy for this weekend. We had somebody defending us. So we crossed the field to where 3310 was playing. They got distracted by 3310, started defending them, and then we went back to our side. It was great.
The old bait and switch.
I don't think 3310 loved it, but we were really happy.
Oh no! Oh my God! They've got a spoiler. We've got to stop them.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
The shiny offense.
That's the old school strat.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, they could see them a little better. They weren't quite as black as your robot, right? So
I think they just got confused. They weren't sure which black robot it was. So
that's the real strat. Put all the black robots on alliance into one big black mass. You can't tell who's what. It's like zebras, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap up the show for this week. A couple quick things before you guys go. I want to thank Ben for joining us as a guest tonight. Thank you for coming onto the show. It's great having you. Hope to see you soon. So anyway, he's across the hall from me anyway. So just to remind everybody, don't forget to tune in to Play-by-Play this Saturday from noon Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be showing all of the best matches from all around FRC. That means any event that's got great matches going on from coast to coast, starting around 12 o'clock with qualification matches and eliminations, moving all the way across the U.S. until we get to the eliminations out on the West Coast. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got some great folks coming down from all across the United States to join us at the studio and at First headquarters in Manchester. So tune in, twitch.tv/firstinspires, 12 o'clock noon this Saturday. It's the place to watch if you're a fan of FRC. And with that, remember to follow us here on Twitch. If you really like our content, consider subscribing to us here on Twitch. It helps us to do all the awesome things that we do. And if you've got Twitch Prime, you can do that without any direct cost to yourself. Just click the Twitch Prime button up at the top of the screen. It'll show you what's up. All right, with that, everybody, we hope you have a good night. Thank you to all of my hosts for joining me, and good luck this week. For now, have a good one. Thanks, everybody.